Thomas Paine, Thomas Paine, Thomas Paine, Sam Adams, Sam Adams, Sam Adams, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Franklin. These men spoke up for what they thought was right. From their courage came such documents as the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States. From their willingness to speak what was sometimes unpopular but right, we enjoy such liberties as freedom of speech, the right to keep and bear arms, and freedom of religion. There are those who still wish to oppress our freedoms, and there are still patriots willing to stand up and defend life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Men like Zeb Bell, who honor our founding fathers and what they stood for. It's now time for Zeb at the ranch, speaking up and defending your freedoms. Brought to you by Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers and all of the other great advertisers on the program. And now, Zeb Bell.
And remember this, the United States Constitution does not guarantee happiness, only the pursuit of it. Well, you're going to have to catch up on that with yourself. Oh, Benjamin Franklin was so wise back in those days. Right now, here we go with Kate Smith and God Bless America, followed by a patriot to call in with our Pledge of Allegiance on this Tuesday, August 11th. And a good morning to you and yours. I'm Zeb Bell, right here in the Zeb at the Ranch studio with our major sponsor, of course, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. All 7 locations serving you with the very best of tires and a very safe, clean environment. You stop in and see them today. Along with our friends at Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley, helping you get back to being you. Right now, let's go to the phone line and start the day off right with our Pledge of Allegiance. Good morning.
Good morning. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to this republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well done, well done. Thank you so much. And right now, let's head for the weather forecast. I can tell you one thing. I think it's going to be warm. It's already up to about 63. K&R Rental brings us the weather. Roger and the crew get there early in the morning at 7 a.m., open the doors and say, come on in, world. They're located at 256 South, 600 west of Hayburn, right there on the Burley-Paul Highway. The best of rental on tools and equipment that you need to finish any kind of a job. Any kind of a job. They've got them all for both long and short-term rentals. So don't forget, K&R Rental. Big, better, and great to help serve you. K&R Rental. Right now, here's Gina with the forecast.
Sunshine and upper 80s are going to prevail for the rest of the week. Here's a look at your weather forecast. Today we are expecting sunny skies, a little bit of a breeze out of the west at about 10 miles an hour, gusts as high as 21 miles an hour. Expecting a high of 89. Tonight, partly cloudy with a low of 59. Tomorrow, mostly sunny skies, high of 86 with an overnight low of 54. 85 for Thursday. Looks like 85 for Friday as well, and maybe 90 for Saturday. That's a look at your weather for 7.
Thank you very much. And as I said, it's 63, pushing right towards 64 here at the studio. And the weather brought to you by K&R Rental, 256 South, 600 west of Hayburn. And I want to mention that, both long and short-term rental on the equipment. And if you're not sure what you need, please call them and kind of talk it over with Roger and the crew before you drive over, and they can help you, and they'll know exactly what you need. 678-3122. That's the number for K&R Rental on the Burley-Paul Highway. Want to also give a great big shout out, like we do when we kick things off in the morning, to our friends over at Daryl's Cleaners. And, I still didn't make it in there. I've had so many different things come up and kind of get in my road and say, you got to go here, you got to go there. And I got a great big bag of rumply clumplies that need to go over to Daryl's Cleaners at 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley. And I know that when I go to pick them up, they'll be brand spanking new. They really make you look good, feel good with your clothes dry cleaned at Daryl's Cleaners, 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley. Please stop in and see my friends Kevin and Cindy. They do the best, and they've been on this program for a long time, Daryl's Cleaners. Caller, I'll be right there. I also want to acknowledge and give a great big shout out to our friends that have been on this program, I think, for almost 20 some odd years. And that's Ramsey Heating and Electric. I have been blessed with great people, and I mean that. And Ramsey Heating and Electric, absolutely one of those. 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. Number to call, 678-0459. They open the doors at 7:30 in the morning till 5, Monday through Friday. And it's no bragging, it's a fact. They've got all your heating, cooling, and electrical needs. Keyword cooling. Keep you cool. They've got all those air conditioner filters. You stop over. Ramsey Heating and Electric, or they provide warm winters and cool summers. Caller, good morning.
Well, good morning to you, sir.
How are you?
Yeah. Now, there's 118 billionaires in New York. I don't know if that's New York City or just New York, but that's a lot of billionaires. And Governor Cuomo's inviting them all to come back and have dinner and drinks and just have a good time. You know, maybe you could try something like that on your show.
No, I'm not going to bribe anybody to listen. I'm not going to bribe anybody to do anything. They do that on their own volition. Let me tell you about Governor Cuomo. He right now is in a fix, the same as Bill de Blasio, the name-only mayor of New York City. They have chased away with their stupid left policies a lot of the big business, a lot of the big conglomerates, a lot of the big corporates, and a lot of the wealthy. And these people are not going to come back. There was an open door policy that Cuomo said, oh, come on in, I'll buy you a drink, I'll buy you lunch, just come on back. You know, that kind of a sleazy attitude is not going to bring anybody back. They've got to change their policies, especially de Blasio in New York City, and come down tough on crime. Yesterday, I talked to some person back in New York City that's a businessman, and they are leaving. They've had enough. They're worried about their safety, and those two nincompoops that call themselves politicians, de Blasio and Cuomo, are worthless. There, you set me off. Are you happy?
How's your blood pressure?
No, I'm telling you, Keith, that is ridiculous what's going on back there.
It is. It's just like somebody you have kicked around and everything in business, and all of a sudden you say, hey, why don't you come over to my house and have dinner and drinks, and let's just be good buddies again.
Yeah, and this isn't going to happen.
Never was.
If you want to see the state of how bad it is in New York City right now, turn on any news program that centers from New York City, and if they do any panning of the streets and everything, I've been to New York many times, and I'm not an expert, but I doggone sure have been there enough to know this, that the streets are so crowded, and there's so much traffic, and there's so much noise and everything. The streets are empty. It's a ghost town.
At one time, they had 18,000 yellow cabs in New York City.
Oh, I believe that. I believe that.
Now, I've talked to people who have been there since, and they said, hey, you can just drive right on downtown. No problem at all.
Yeah, there's no problem at all. Keith, I appreciate your call. I got another one in the wings waiting. Thank you so much. God bless you, man. Thanks.
Have a wonderful day.
I will, my friend. Caller, I'm going to ask your patience just for one more minute, and I want to tell everybody about Dino's Septic Service. These are great people and nice folks to work with, fast, fare-friendly service, and they do the jobs that you don't want to do. You don't want to be out pumping a septic tank or liquid waste removal and all that, or cleaning out those sewer and sink drain lines. No. And they got new equipment, like those cameras that go down in the pipes and everything and find the problem. They've got it all. Dino's Septic Service. Please give them a call. 436-6526 or 678-1638. Dino's Septic Service with the big truck that says smells cargo on the way. You get a hold of them today. Real quick note, too, I want to remind you about our good buddy Anthony. Nobody knows camper shells better than Anthony does. And I just urge you to stop over to 1827 Overland. You can't miss him on Overland. He's got camper shells all over the place. And you can save a lot of money. And believe me, he's got all the styles and all the colors. And he can save you money. He's got new and or used shells and lids. And he's got the ARE shells that I've got on my pickup. And boy, they are good. Quality service, low prices, all of this. Call Anthony. Call him. Now write this number down, 312-1525. 312-1525. Save on shells. Anthony, good guy. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Yes, good morning, Zeb. I'd like to cut through some of the methane gas out there. I do something else, but I don't want to use that word, about what's going on. And this is my personal opinion. I feel that Nancy Pelosi and her lapdog, Chuck Schumer, has gotten to all these Democratic mayors in these cities that are burning down and telling them to let the place burn down. That's the only way we're going to get rid of Donald Trump, get this country where we'd like to get, which is joining the communist organizations. And I think she has gotten to all of them and told them, if you want to remain in power, this is what you have to do to save the Democratic Party.
I can't argue with you. I mean, it would be foolish and foolhardy to argue with you and your opinion, because I share a lot of the same feelings that you're expressing. I think that absolutely there is a huge movement going on behind the scenes, behind locked doors. I think, honestly, a lot of it has to do with the coronavirus. I think a lot of it has to do with Black Lives Matter and Antifa. I think a lot of it has to do with the complete social unrest. I think a lot of it has to do with the Democrats wanting control. And I'm going to come out and say it, I don't trust one doggone Democrat. None. Because if they adhere to the party platform, all they want is control. They don't care about America. They don't care about Tony. They don't care about Mary or Deanne or Zeb. They care about only control. And if you differ with my philosophy, you tell me.
Well, this woman is bordering on insanity. She is so full of hate. She is willing to destroy the country, Donald Trump, you and me, and the rest of the conservatives in this country. She belongs in a mental institution.
Well, you know as well as I do. I know, but you know as well as I do that wishing for her to leave the scene and the actual realism of what's going to happen are two different things. I am extremely worried when I hear about the polls, which I don't believe in, but we are getting closer to the election, showing that Biden, a guy that absolutely has no ability or capabilities, is still leading President Trump. And, I want to just throw something at you, Tony, real fast.
Yeah.
And answer this question. What are the Democrats going to do if they do win with Biden? Now, I'm going to ask you this. What are they going to do if he assumes the presidency? How are they going to keep him away from the press? How are they going to gag his gaffes? And how are they going to not allow his mental lapses? What are they going to do with the man? Think about that.
Well, my opinion on a situation like this, you might think I'm a little screwy, but I believe that Joe Biden, you might find that Michelle Obama will become vice president. Joe Biden will be assassinated, and Michelle Obama will move up into the presidency, and I really feel that this is a possibility. That's just my personal...
No, there are a lot of possibilities, and anybody that sits back and says, oh, they're crackpots, they're talking about this and that, stop and be quiet, because there's so many things that could possibly happen that we never even gave a thought to 6-7 months ago. I agree with you. There's so many probables. Tony, I got to run, but thank you for your call. I always appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome, Jed. Bye.
All right, sir. God bless. Want to remind you about Denny's restaurant. Oh, I just enjoy going in there. The people are so friendly. They meet you at the door. Hi, how you doing? And they sit you at a table or a booth, and you're going to enjoy some great, great food, whether it's breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and desserts. Oh, anytime, all the time. I urge you to stop in. You're going to love all the menu choices. You got to try that Parmesan chicken sizzling skillet. It is delicious. You're going to love that. And like I said, they're located at 611 North Overland in Burley, and another location at 291 Pole Line Road. There's no R in line. It's 291 Pole Line Road in Twin Falls. America's Diner. And that's, of course, Denny's restaurant. You stop in and see those good people today. All right, calls are welcome. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I was watching live the presidential news conference yesterday. I don't know how many of you saw this, but all of a sudden, it got real serious. President Trump had just started from the podium addressing some of the issues that he was going to let reporters expand on with their questions, and suddenly a Secret Service agent came to the podium and in no short order told the president, please come with me, Mr. President, now. There were no ifs, ands, or buts, and President Trump looked at the Secret Service agent, followed him and some of the others that had congregated around the door out of the room, and was escorted to the Oval Office. Why? There had been a shooting outside the White House, and very quickly and very professionally, the Secret Service and the Presidential Police Force on the grounds went into action. And I mean went into action. The black uniformed Presidential Police Force, with their long guns and extremely well-coordinated efforts, had every single area of the lawns of east, west, north, and south of the White House completely cordoned off. And it lasted for approximately 15 minutes. I'll give an abbreviation if I'm wrong on that time. And then the president was escorted back into the news conference. But it showed a couple of things. It showed how dangerous being the president of the United States is. And it showed all the dangers that could be subjecting the life of that president. And it also showed the efficiency and professionalism of the Secret Service and the Presidential Police Force on the grounds. And I was extremely impressed with how they handled that situation. If you saw it, well, I did in real time, live yesterday, give me a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Want to talk a little bit about the Cache County Fair? Yes, I do. And it's going to run August 15th through the 22nd, Saturday to Saturday. And, of course, don't you forget this coming Saturday night at 7:30. Oh, the Neil McCoy concert. Right there at the rodeo grounds. You're going to love this man, his music, and his energy, and you're going to have a good time. Then on Sunday, August 16th, don't forget the Monster Truck Insanity starting at 6. Monday and Tuesday of next week on the 17th and 18th, the Moto Rodeo. We've got a whole bunch of things to tell you about all next week at your Cassia County Fair and Rodeo for 2020. Want to remind you, caller, I'll be right there. Please don't go away. That many of the merchants that want to have you celebrate the Cassia County Fair and Rodeo, Butte Irrigation at 116 South, 600 West, Highway 27 in Paul, or right there on Kimberly Road on Red Cap Corner, north of Kimberly. And believe me, they've got all the parts for the brands of irrigation. They've got everything you need, parts or service. Butte Irrigation. They will get you wet. Don't forget that. Mountain Transmissions. 1146 East Main in Burley. Yes, sirree. The telephone number to call, 678-9110. Rick says, hey, if your transmission, you're backed out of the garage and you hit the street and you put it in drive and you're still backing up, you got a problem. They'll provide free towing, free diagnostic, and free estimates. Don't forget, they are your one-stop transmission repair facility, Mountain Transmissions. And last but not least, AMI. Good folks at 719 Overland in Burley. Look for the big 28-foot wrench over their door that says "Go Nuts" over their bolts. I'll tell you, they are a great business that supports everything locally, and they tell everybody at the Cassia County Fair to enjoy and have a good time. AMI. Caller, good morning. You're on the air. Go ahead, please.
Good morning. Yes, I was watching that intensely, and I had no idea what was coming on, but all of a sudden, the president was ushered out of the room. The press corps and everything just sat there, and then they went on with something else. And as I remembered, the president came back in, never said much about it. He apologized for the interruption, and they went on back with the press.
No, wait a minute, though.
He did a wonderful job.
I want to correct you on one thing, that the Secret Service and the presidential police force back there also ushered out all the media onto a portion of the lawn. And when President Trump came back, he did mention the only news that he had been given was that there had been a shooting at 17th and Pennsylvania Avenue, and that's the only thing that he mentioned.
Well, you're absolutely right. I didn't know that. But it looked like the press corps was not so many there now all of a sudden.
Well, the reason there's not so many there, you may not be aware of this, but since the virus has expanded and they're worried about the infection rate and everything, they literally, from the various news sources, whether it's MSNBC, whether it's CNN, Fox, or ABC, it doesn't make any difference, they draw in a lottery system basically who's going to be represented on certain days for the press conferences. And not everybody from all the media is going to be in that room on the same day. It's going to be alternate as far as who's going to be allowed to go in.
Well, he handled everybody beautifully, I thought.
No, I agree.
He's very courteous and everything else. He is a wonderful person when you don't ruffle his feathers.
Yeah. President Trump, I thought, he's getting a bum rap for being a arrogant New Yorker all the time, anytime. I thought he handled that news conference extremely well. I thought he handled the situation of being whisked away by the Secret Service extremely well. I thought he handled the return to open up and have the news conference again. He handled extremely well. And I'm sick and tired of people finding things to chisel away at this man.
You know, I come away from there feeling really good about the President of the United States. That he was very articulate about the things he said and the things he did. But you know, Red, there's one question I have now, is I don't know about Condoleezza Rice. Is she a Republican or Where are we at?
Well, for me to say what she is or is not, Condoleezza Rice, I have a lot of respect for her and she is a Republican, if you will. There are certain things and certain statements that have been made that make you kind of raise your eyebrows, but I'm not going to get into that right now about Condoleezza Rice. I've got something else I want to mention, as a matter of fact, in regards to China, and I just had a thought on this last night, and I'm going to use it on the air right now. Keith, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Looking forward to hearing it.
Thank you.
Bye.
I got up early this morning, could not sleep, and I turned on a radio program, and I was listening to the caller and the host, and very eloquently, extremely articulately, the caller and the host of the program were talking about China and the coronavirus. And some of the comments that were made, I kind of logged into my brain in a kind of a thinking about the calendar and the dates, etc. And everything that this caller said really came to fruition when I got up and Deanne went to the computer and we started pulling some notes. China, if you'll recall, back in January, was having a lot of unrest. They were having a lot of protesting. They were having a lot of problems with their people in an insurrection atmosphere. They were having serious protesting and internal strife. But then suddenly, and this is where I'm going to be called a conspiracy theorist, because after I was listening to this caller state about the unrest and the protesting and all the demands that were being made in Hong Kong and other places, I got to thinking suddenly COVID-19 was released from a Chinese laboratory. And suddenly, the protests, the insurrection, the strife, and everything else came to a screeching halt. Now, you might say to yourself, oh, it's just coincidental. But the releasing of that virus that is now in 188 countries in this world as a pandemic, and what it has done to shut down our economy, shut down our lifestyles, and curtail any goals or hopes or aspirations for the future because we don't know what it holds with this pandemic. Just stop and make up your own mind. Was it coincidental? Or was it a power play that was successfully released by the evil Chinese government? You tell me. Give me a call. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Think about it. Call me. I know I've got some really sharp people out there. $10 sports physical special at the Urgent Cares. Listen to this, and 100% of the money will be donated back to your school's athletic program. This is absolutely a very, very nice gesture from the Urgent Cares. You betcha. Riverview Urgent Care in Burley, 382 North Overland, and the Urgent Care of Twin Falls, 2392 Addison Avenue East in Twin, and the Urgent Care of Jerome, 133 West Avenue A in Jerome. Holy smokes, no appointments necessary. Get in there for your sports physicals, and they're only $10. Regularly $20, and the $10 is going to go right back into your school's athletic program. Thank you, the Urgent Cares. Riverview Urgent Care in Burley, Twin Falls Urgent Care, and Jerome Urgent Care. Caller, good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Do you agree with me or think I'm nuts?
No. To add a little bit more to it, who was over in China in December that is in the House? of Representatives.
Go ahead. Finish the story, because I got the paper right here.
Nancy Pelosi.
Oh, gee, yes.
So they had to get the vote for impeachment before Christmas break.
Mm-hmm.
Remember?
Yeah.
It had to happen. Okay? So I don't trust Nancy Pelosi as far as I can throw my shop building.
I got to tell you this, Doug. I talked to a man a couple of days ago that I have the utmost respect for. He's been on my radio program on a couple of occasions. He's very well known nationally. And he honestly thinks this is the most clandestine and absolutely well thought out plot that has ever happened in the world times. And the releasing of this virus from the Chinese government, what it has done, what it has curtailed, and how it has started a power grasp by the left is absolutely insidious, but it's happening.
Exactly. I do not put anything past the Democrats and some Republicans to get President Trump out and regain power.
Yeah.
I do not put anything past them.
Well, think about what we were talking about earlier. And when I heard this caller early this morning on the air talking about the virus and the release of the virus and everything, and then I started thinking about all the insurrection and unrest that I know you can remember back in January and February that was going on in Hong Kong. Remember how the people were absolutely showing their disdain for Red China? Remember that?
Exactly, and what were they packing around in their protests? The American flag.
Yes, and that had to be stopped. It had to be stopped. But, it is so coincidental that virus is released and bingo, bango, door slammed shut. No more riots. No more protests.
Also remember, too, when this was first brought to our attention, or even before it was brought to our attention, I remember that China was banning any flights from Wuhan to any other part of China.
Yeah. I think that history someday will open the pages of its book, if they haven't been deleted or altered by the idiots in this world, and it's going to show that we have been subjected to one of the biggest farces, yet one of the most dangerous events ever released on mankind.
Exactly, and I think it started over 8 years ago, probably 12 years ago.
Well, I'll tell you what.
When the biggest farce started.
I am very, very worried about a country and about people in power that would release devastating viruses and diseases capable of killing in mass numbers just to retain or attain power.
Well, I remember through history what Hitler did to get power.
Yeah.
And what he'd done to the Jews. I mean, evil people will do unimaginable things to maintain their power.
You know, the world was doing well. I mean, honestly, think back in January or Christmas time. Boy, we had a good Christmas. Everybody was smiling. Merry Christmas. The economy was at a bolstering high, and the stock market was up. Wasn't it, Doug? Everything was rosy. And then they closed the door.
Exactly. Exactly true. Everything. The Democrats had no leg to stand on to even come close to beating our president. They couldn't stand on the economy. They couldn't stand on unemployment rates for minorities. They couldn't stand on anything to try to defeat this president. They needed help.
I'm starting to turn into a real questioning person regarding the coronavirus. I know that I'm going to upset some of my friends out there that are in the medical profession, so be it. But you know, the masks and the mask wearing the unfiltered air, the stale air, the possibility of rebreathing and inhaling the same thing, the stagnation, the goggle wearing, the face shield wearing, the social distancing, the isolation of living behind closed doors. We are destroying our civilized society of being people and communicating with people. All of this would be to a benefit of a power that wants to assume control.
Exactly. You divide people and then you conquer them. If we had a news media that was designed, what it was supposed to be designed to do, to be a watchdog over what's going on and report truthful news and facts, not opinions and staged facts, we wouldn't have any of this going on. But
I agree.
We've got a news media that is complicit with China and with the Democrat Party to take this nation apart and take it down.
Fear, that little simple four-letter word, fear. I dare say it is robbing you and me and others of our lives. I don't care if they're senior citizens in their golden years. I don't care if it's the younger generation in their formative years. Fear right now is robbing us of living, and that's criminal.
Exactly. There's a saying I read the other day. It's something about, I'm paraphrasing exactly what it said, but it said, when you fear the future, you something about not living your life.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I think honestly, and I'm going to stick my neck out again, I think honestly there are chemicals and medicines that are available right now, whether it's the hydroxychloroquine, whether it is another drug called Zelenko, whether it is another drug called Quercetin, I might have said that wrong, whether it's just an addition of zinc into your system on a daily basis. Of all the people that I've talked to, including all the doctors that have been on this program that have had the guts to speak out, I am not going to follow in lockstep with Dr. Fauci or Dr. Birx.
Exactly. And look who Dr. Fauci has been proven to be associated with.
Yeah.
He's with Bill Gates. And who's Bill Gates for? The WHO.
I just think that we are being so duped into following like lemmings. I mean, I am not going to be that way anymore. I listen to Dr. Artis on my program. I've had other doctors on my program. I've listened to a great female doctor, Dr. Gold, explaining the benefits of hydroxychloroquine and other drugs, and you've got to question yourself as to why when these doctors speak out, they are censored. Why are they being censored?
That's a good point right there. Why? Because they aren't with the group or the whatever you want to call them. They don't support what the left is trying to do or what the people that want to run the world. So,
amen. I got it.
Customer just come in, so everybody, do what you can for our senior centers.
Absolutely. Thank you, Doug. Appreciate it. Don't forget Barry Equipment at Rental and Sales, Service, and Parts. Barry Equipment and Rental, 159 West Highway 30 in Burley, 465 Addison Avenue West in Twin, and the Nampa location. They've got an inventory of all the Bobcats, all the shapes and sizes. They've got all the trenchers and the scissor lifts and the Doosan equipment, the wheel loaders and the excavators. Oh, my. They've got everything for the tough jobs, the lifting and the digging and the pushing and the carrying. You better stop in and see them today. And you're probably saying, well, I don't know how to run it. They'll teach you, by golly. You get in there to Barry Equipment and Rental, Burley, Twin Falls, and Nampa. They'll help you out. Calls are welcome and appreciated. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Give me a call. I'd like to have your attitude on this. And I want to talk after the weather, if you don't want to continue on about the Democrats and the coronavirus. I want to talk about the Black Lives Matter. And I found a story that I think is absolutely very interesting, and it was put out by CBN News, and it was written this last couple of months in June 25th of this summer. And I want to go through some of the highlights of that story about Black Lives Matter. Right now, our weather forecast is brought to you by our dear friends at Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids. And believe me, when you have some hearing loss and you're kind of worried about it and you say, oh, well, maybe it'll get better. Well, no, it won't. It's probably going to get worse. And you need to call these people and make an appointment because they can and they will help you. Really, really sharp when it comes to hearing health problems. Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids. And they're right there in a new space on the Minidoka Memorial Hospital campus, and the number 312-0957. We'll tell you more right after Gina has the weather.
Sunshine and upper 80s are going to prevail for the rest of the week. Here's a look at your weather forecast. Today we are expecting sunny skies, a little bit of a breeze out of the west at about 10 miles an hour. Gusts as high as 21 miles an hour. Expecting a high of 89. Tonight partly cloudy with a low of 59. Tomorrow mostly sunny skies, high of 86 with an overnight low of 54. 85 for Thursday. Looks like 85 for Friday as well, and maybe 90 for Saturday. That's a look at your weather for 7th Ranch.
Thank you, Gina. And, of course, at Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids, they have all the latest of technology for your hearing health. And believe me, they will study your problem and help you. Help you. That's what you need with your hearing loss. Please call them for an appointment. 208-312-0957. Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids. Calls are welcome. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. About a week ago, I had a call on my cell phone, and I don't have a clue who this person was, but they just left a little message and said, "You don't know what you're talking about, Black Lives Matter." Well, yes, I do. Yes, I do. They are Marxist, communists, and they're bent on destroying the fabric of this United States and our family and moral values. I found this story thanks to my lovely wife, and the headline is, "The Shocking Truth About the Marxists Behind Black Lives Matter Organization. No forgiveness, no reconciliation." And I'm just going to read you some of the highlights of this story. There's a huge difference between the well-intentioned activists pushing for racial equality and the people who run Black Lives Matter organization. And skipping down to Black Lives Matter co-founder Patrisse Cullors revealed, and she said, quote, "Myself and Alicia in particular are trained organizers. We are trained Marxists. We are super versed on ideological theories. We disrupt the Western prescribed nuclear family structure requirement by supporting each other as extended families and villages." Think about those words. We disrupt the Western prescribed nuclear family structure by supporting each other as extended families and villages. And they're trained Marxists. It goes on. We foster a queer-affirming network. These are their words, not mine. The BLM movement heavily promotes homosexuality and transgenderism. Listen to this, all of us Christians. They want to do away with God's framework for the family, with a married father and mother. And we've seen what happens when we move away from God's framework for families. You suffer so many negative outcomes. They have no forgiveness, no reconciliation. There's no call for that. So as a Christian, when our salvation is predicated on reconciliation, being reconciled to God, how can we not be reconciled to one another? These are questions that a lot of people are asking about this group. Very dangerous and insidious group that's right here in Magic Valley. Black Lives Matter. No, I will never support or give any respect to this organization. And also, one of their activists on their board had said of Jesus Christ, it's a gross form of white supremacy. I hope those words sink in a little bit, because we've got a problem. We've got a major problem in this country of the left trying to take over control this November's election. If you're not scared, you should be. We are seeing police chiefs quitting, retiring, leaving, police officers leaving because there's no future, no hope, no respect. I don't know if you remember seeing this woman on television over the last couple of weeks, as a matter of fact, since Seattle has had such a problem with the Black Lives Matter and Antifa. But finally, the female black Seattle police chief just said, I've had it. I'm done. I resign. After the city council approved huge budget cuts and slashes to her police force. She said, I can't do it. I can't protect people. As a police chief, I could see the tears in her eye that were welling up. She's giving up a career because of idiots on a city council that absolutely are bent on left-wing destruction. She's going to give it up. People are leaving the police forces in New York, Milwaukee, Minneapolis, all across the United States. There's no hope. There's no respect. Murders in New York City. I've got that note right here. The murder rate has doubled in New York City since a year ago. Doubled with the idiocy and incompetency of a Democrat, Bill de Blasio, as mayor. Oh, we got to cut the police. Oh, we got to stop this. Oh, we got to handcuff the police, make it tougher for them. Murders have doubled in New York City since last year. No respect. No hope for the future from the police with that kind of left-wing thinking. I watched Laura Ingraham last night on her program as she toured Minneapolis with the burned-out businesses from the Black Lives Matter and Antifa. I know that area. I went to college back there. And she interviewed the store owners, and these innocent, God-fearing store owners that put their heart, their blood, sweat, and tears into building a business, and then these creeps, these cretins, these vermin went and burned it down? There's no hope. There's no respect. And that's what you're going to get en masse if we put the likes of Biden and the Democrats in there in November. No hope, no respect. I want to thank our major sponsor, your Magic, hold on caller, I'll be right there, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, with all the best of tires for your safe driving and all the different tread designs. These people know tires. I mean, they can rattle off all the different tires that'll fit your driving needs for your car, your pickup, your SUV, horse trailer, boat trailer, whatever. You stop in and talk to the professionals in tires. Boy, they know. Your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, along with the best in brake service, front end alignment, shocks and struts and batteries. They really, really care. James and Buell, Dan on Poline in Twin Falls, Lane and Rupert, Mike and Jerome, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, the Twist family in Paul, and Trent on Overland in Burley. Nobody does it better. Your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Dad, Earl.
Yes, sir.
Earlier you were talking about cures, and
And the common cure for most anything that ails you is putting in a good, honest day's work. And where they're handing out so much money to people that are not providing things to the country isn't good for those people and is weakening them.
Well, it's not only weakening them, it's weakening the stability of this country. You can't keep providing money for people doing nothing. And we've got to rebuild the attitude of being self-responsible, going out with the incentive of creating and doing your own dreams and aspirations. And by having people stay at home and get a check, that's not going to do anything.
It's going to weaken the country all that much more.
I agree with you. So good to hear from you, Earl. I got to run to the news, but thank you for calling, my dear friend. Thank you very much.
All my best.
God bless you, man. Thanks. We're going to take a little break for about 7 minutes and then come back with Mr. Energy. Dan Kish is going to be on the program, and then we've got Jonathan Wood with the Pacific Legal Foundation. All of that and more on Zeb at the Ranch for this morning. Thank you for your calls. We'll be back in about 7 minutes. Oh, good morning and welcome back. Hour number 2 on this Tuesday, August 11th. Zeb at the Ranch, brought to you by our major sponsor, your Magic Valley, Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations providing the best in tires in a very safe, clean environment. Don't forget, too, Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley, helping you get back to being you. Right now, before we go any further, let's have this good word for Western Waste Services.
From the canyons of the Snake River and all across southern Idaho, we're always at your disposal. Western Waste Services, we care about our community, our resources, and this great land. Western Waste Services is lending a hand, always at your disposal.
Western Waste Services, of course, always at your disposal, and I urge you to write the number down, 734-6969. That number again, 734-6969. Call them. Everything from the Go Mini storage units to possibly renting some porta potties for a special event, getting on the route service for your garbage pickup, having a dumpster dropped off, all of this and so much more at Western Waste Services, always at your disposal, 734-6969. Want to remind you, too, about our dear friend Joel Heward. Man, I'll tell you what, every day we talk about them, and it's kind of nobody wants to talk about death and dying and funerals, but it's a part of life, and we all need to be aware about what we need to do. We need to have the pre-planning. We need to know, and that's where Hanson Mortuary comes in. Located at 710 6th Street in Rupert, and the number to call Joel Heward, his family, and his staff, 436-5636. That number again, 436-5636. And they always provide the families they serve with the best possible support and comfort with the highest ethical standards and unquestioned integrity. Hanson Mortuary, Joel Heward at 710 6th Street in Rupert, along with Joel Heward also serving you at Morrison Payne Funeral Home on East Main in Burley. Real quick, I also want to say a good word for our friends at Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation. Holy moly, I made my appointment yesterday. Yeah, I'm all caught up for this next week. I got to get in there and get some work done on my knee, and Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation is the place. 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley. Oh my, Nick Greenwell and all the physical therapists, they know, and they can help you get back to being you. Give them a call, 678-1191. That number again, 678-1191. The best serving you. Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation. Right now, let's go to the phone line, and I always look forward to Tuesdays because I get a chance to talk to a man that knows all about energy or the lack or the abundance thereof, and that's the man with American Energy Alliance, Dan Kish. Good morning, Dan. How are you?
Good morning, Zeb. I'm well.
I'm having a very, very difficult time all of a sudden to my engineer of hearing the callers and anything coming from that end. Sean, if you could check and see if there's been a turn down or something because it's real faint. Dan, I appreciate it, and if I have to ask you for a repeat, I will. But I wanted to ask you about what's going on with energy and the possibility of having it brought into the debates, the presidential debates. Do you know of anybody that's going to bring up the energy portion in the debates between Donald Trump and Joe Biden?
Well, I sure hope so, Zeb. I mean, it's absolutely essential to any kind of economic recovery the United States has, and the two candidates' views of energy are diametrically opposed. President Trump thinks we've got a lot here and we ought to use it, and it makes us stronger, and I think the record shows that. And Joe Biden's all in on Red China and their batteries and rare earth minerals and solar panels and all the rest of it, forcing us to live on that. And I don't think there's a more stark difference among them, although, there hasn't been a lot of discussion among the media about the differences. They're doing a good job doing what they always do, Zeb.
My fear is that every day on this program, if I get a story about energy that I think is really relevant and needs to be put on the air immediately, I'm going to do so, whether it's in regards to the batteries and what we're going to do with them, or the processing and manufacturing of the wind turbines and all the solar panels over in China, whatever. Does the American public really understand that we're going to be up on the high dive of a swimming pool, about ready to jump into a pool of water with no water in it, with a completely unsought out, information-wise, energy program as compared to what we're going to be throwing away?
No, Zeb, they don't, because, the media doesn't cover it. I mean, basically, they pretend as though this stuff all works seamlessly. And if we just switch over to solar panels and windmills and whatever else they have designed for us, the masterminds, all will be well. And as we've discussed before, it's not just transition, it's all of the impositions of things that on our lifestyles that we would have to go through, which is what they want. They want us to, have you noticed how, obviously people argue about masks back and forth and all the rest, but have you noticed how, some people just really relish the idea of forcing other people to do something?
Yeah.
Like a trained SEAL. I think they get a kick out of making other people do things. And I'm not saying we shouldn't individually make those decisions for ourselves, but there seems to be almost a zeal with which some people approach this. And the same thing goes for energy. I mean, there are certain people, and, we probably ought to recognize it if we want to protect our freedoms. There are people out there who don't want us to have the freedom to be able to get in our vehicles and drive where we want and do what we want. They'd rather have us, like to know where we are, what we're doing, making sure that things, and they're the first to scream about fascism and police state and all the rest, but they're the ones that want contact tracing, the government hiring hundreds of thousands of people to follow us around and ask us who we met with regard to the COVID, or, put things in our vehicles that allow them to know exactly where we are whenever they want to, tax us based on how much we, how many miles we drive, which means they have to be able to follow us in order to make those calculations. And I don't know, when these same people want to take our guns away and tell us that we can go to casinos but we can't go to church, it makes me wonder about their what's motivating.
I said something earlier this morning, and Sean over at the station, now I've got a feedback problem there. If you could help me regulate that gain a little bit. Dan, I said this earlier this morning, and you might think that I'm one of those Twilight Zone people, but I really got to thinking about this. That all of a sudden, in January and February, we were listening to and watching on the newscasts every day about the insurrection and the protesting and the people that were unhappy citizens of China, and it spread to Hong Kong and other regions. And then all of a sudden, the pandemic of the coronavirus was released from a lab in China, and the protests stopped, and the military and the government took over, and everything was shut down. And now that same pandemic has spread to 188 countries in the world with basically the same shutdown, and those that are in control or want control are right there at the door to step in and take over. That's my philosophy, that this was all, honestly, pre-planned.
Well, Zeb, I don't know the answer to that, but I'll tell you this. There's an awful lot of coincidences with regard to this, and I don't think we've gotten all the answers. And I'm hoping before this election we get some of those answers.
Mm-hmm.
But you're absolutely right. It went from China becoming being a pariah because of what they were doing in Hong Kong to all of a sudden everybody worried about whether they had a job and whether their kids could go to school and being able to get groceries and all the rest of this stuff. And so all of a sudden we were forced to look inward as opposed to outward as we were doing at that time. And the fact that it came from there, and the fact that they limited exposure to their own people within their own country, but didn't limit them going abroad to other countries, is either just dumb coincidence or proof of something else. And I think we deserve to know the answers to that, because it's too convenient that they benefited from that. And then on top of it, Zeb, they're the ones that, if you look to where your mask comes from, chances are it comes from China. So they're making all these. They're not only did it come from there, they are the world's foremost producer of the stuff that we use to protect ourselves against it.
Yeah.
So I don't know, but I think you raise a good point. People ought to think about this.
Well, we're entering a hazmat society. And I think you'll agree, whether it's wearing the masks, of which I'm not going to do, I will wear them if I go into a business where I might entertain the opportunity of getting the virus from someone coughing or sneezing. I'll wear it inside of a business, but the minute I get outside, it's going to come off no matter what. We're wearing goggles. People are wearing face shields. We're social distancing. We're isolating ourselves. And what we're doing, we're losing our humanity and our society and our civilized attitude. We're just not being people anymore.
Right. And they all want us to look to the government for the answer to everything.
Yeah.
Which, coincidentally, is what a lot of people have been pushing for politically for a long, long time.
Right.
Which basically is to make us wards of the state. In this country, we were founded with the idea that individuals had rights, and we put a fence around the government to keep them from stomping on those God-given rights. And that's always upset the apple cart, just as it did when our founding fathers declared those were our principles, which set us apart and launched us to become the most powerful and greatest nation the world has ever seen. And there are those people who, again, want to exert control on everything we do. They found energy is a very good way to do that because it runs everything. It makes our modern life possible. And if you can control the accelerator or the electricity that runs our country, you can pretty much control what people do by telling them how much they can use, what they can use it for,
right,
what they can't use it for. That's their dream.
Absolutely.
And they slowly but surely have tried to do that, and I mean, that's kind of what we're up against, Zeb. In all honesty, this has always been about individual freedoms and God-given rights versus the state. And the history of the world for thousands of years was strong people at the top telling the peasants at the bottom how they could live and how much they had to give to the state. And there is always among some people that urge to gain those same powers because they think they're smarter than the ones who failed before.
Wouldn't it be fun, and I underline the word fun, if you and I could host a little interview with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and she being the named czar of energy, if Biden wins, God help us all, I would love to put her on the so-called hot seat and ask her questions about conversion costs, about how we're going to pay for all this, what's going to happen to the American family of four trying to make and live in an existence to where most of their money goes towards energy. And I'd also like to ask her about the transition costs on the energy grid to go to solar and wind. Now, you told me one time on a program, and help me on this, Dan, that there's a lot of changes as far as the electrical grid in the acceptance of solar and wind. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Explain that just a little, if you would.
Well, our entire grid was built, and, I mean, we don't think about it because it works. But it's the most complicated, machine on Earth, the United States grid, literally. And that's not me saying that. That's experts who look at things and say it is the most complicated machine on Earth, and it's all integrated. And it's designed to run on things that produce power when you need them. Wind and solar produce power when they want to. And it's sort of like trying to run a business, and, you have employees that show up when they want to. Well, maybe when those employees show up, they do good work, and you can save a few bucks during the times they work, but when they're not there, you have to hire somebody to replace them. Mm-hmm. And that's what happens with wind and solar. You have to hire somebody to come in, to fill in, and that's not efficient for them, it's not efficient for you, and it's not efficient overall. Your costs are going to go up.
Right.
That's why people will expect people to go to work when they're expected to be at work, and that way they can plan regularized things. So that's what happens. I mean, there's a lot of complicated and technical aspects to it in terms of the way the grid operates and the way it moves and everything else. But if all of a sudden your people aren't there and you're expected to turn out something tomorrow at your factory and your folks just don't show up, you're in trouble. And the same with fields, by the way.
Right.
If you don't have pickers in your fields, and you've got a crop that's ripe,
you got to pay somebody to come in there and do it, and you're wasting time while you're trying to figure out what, where you're going to get those workers and move them in and make sure they're taken care of and all the rest. And that's basically what they're proposing for our system, because those aren't things that you can change. You can't change the fact that the sun only shines so many hours a day or the wind only blows when it feels like it. And building a system that's supposed to run 24/7, keep our hospitals going and our schools and our you name it, pumping our water and everything else.
I believe we lost Dan. All of a sudden, I heard a click on the line, and away he went. Sean?
Right back.
All right, thank you. While I'm waiting, I want to wish a very happy birthday to Rose Voss. It's her birthday today. Rose, if you're listening, God bless you, and happy birthday. I'll do a quick commercial, and we're going to celebrate her birthday and others at our lunch bunch coming up the end of the month at Denny's Restaurant, 611 North Overland in Burley, and 291 Pole Line Road in Twin Falls. Absolutely delicious food and great people serving you. You're going to love the menu choices, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, anytime, all the time, and all the desserts at, of course, America's Diner. Denny's Restaurant, 611 North Overland in Burley. I understand we've reestablished the connection.
And now, back to Zeb at the Ranch on AM 1230 KBAR. To reach Zeb, call 436-2244 or toll free 1-866-927-4587. And now, here is Zeb.
We're running a little bit late, but I want to quickly tell you about our great friends with Riverview Urgent Care and Medical Center at 382 North Overland in Burley, and, of course, the Urgent Care of Twin Falls and the Urgent Care of Jerome. They are now taking in the sports physicals. That's right, $10 sports physicals. And guess what? The money's going to be donated right back to your school's athletic program. You better get in there today. Normally, these physicals, $20. No appointments necessary. Now they're just $10 for your sports physical. To go back to school this fall, don't forget, stop in to the Riverview Urgent Care and Burley, along with Jerome Urgent Care and Twin Falls Urgent Care, and 100% of this money donated back to your school's athletic program. You stop in and see those good folks at the Urgent Cares today. Right now, let's go to the phone line, and I'm so glad that we finally made connections to have this gentleman come on my program, and he's got a great book called Pardongate, How Bill and Hillary Clinton and Their Brothers Profited from Pardons. Good morning, Mark Hyman. How are you?
I'm doing great. And can you imagine that the Clintons somehow treated a government process like executive clemency as if it was their personal property to sell and profit from? Amazing, huh?
Yeah, don't get me started on the Clintons, and then that would dovetail right into the Obamas, because I see a lot of illicit activity going on with both of those administrations.
Yeah, so it's really been a long time since Bill Clinton left the presidency, but this is really worthy of discussion, and it took a while to get this book out. But I want your listeners to really appreciate kind of the background. For the first 6 years, Bill Clinton was one of the stingiest presidents in all of U.S. history when it came to awarding executive clemency, both pardons and commutations. In his first 4-year term, he gave away 56 clemency decisions. Only Thomas Jefferson, the nation's third president, gave away fewer, 45, in his first 4-year term. And there were only 5 million people in the country back then, not nearly 300 million. So Bill Clinton went from one of the nation's stingiest presidents to one of the most generous, and it began in August of 1999, only days after Hillary announced she was going to run for the U.S. Senate. What a coincidence, huh?
You know, Mark, in your expertise and your research for this book, will history, for all of us, ever reveal the criminality of the Clintons and what really went on?
Well, I certainly hope this book is a step in the right direction, and your listeners should appreciate, to be honest, there is no one who's ever done as thorough and as deep a dive as I have with this. I've looked at every single clemency decision that Bill Clinton gave out in his last 18 months in office. Listeners probably remember there was the Mark Rich pardon when he left office, when Bill Clinton left office, and they know how shameful that was. But I looked at literally hundreds of them, and there were so many clemency decisions that seemed relatively anonymous. There was no there, so to speak. But when I scrubbed them, I found an amazing number of relationships and contacts and profiteering, not only to Bill and Hillary Clinton, but to the brothers, Hugh and Tony Rodham, and Roger Clinton, but also friends of the Clintons and friends of the Clintons. It was a profit-making business. In fact, their 2-decade pay-to-play scheme that enriched Bill and Hillary Clinton to the tune of $240 million after leaving office and raised billions for the Clinton Foundation began with the sale of these pardons. It was so wild and wacky. In the final months of Bill Clinton's presidency, his brother Roger was cold calling clemency applicants, offering to get them pardons in return for 6-figure payments. One of those people who got a phone call I spoke with said to me, "I don't know Roger Clinton. I've never met Roger Clinton. How did he know I even applied for clemency? That's not public information. And how did he get my private cell phone number? I didn't give it to anyone, except I put it in my clemency application." So clearly, Bill, or somebody at the direction of Bill, had given his brother Roger a long list of clemency applicants with their personal contact information so Roger could hustle pardons, and that's exactly what he did. All 3 brothers individually got hundreds of thousands of dollars in hustling pardons for people who were willing to write a check.
Let's go back to the beginning on this, Mark. What was the motivating force or the source of starting the inquiries and the investigation by you to write this book? I mean, what intrigued you so much that you wanted to devote your life to finding out the facts about this book?
Well, you know, I'd love to tell you that I had focused on this, and it was something that I wanted to jump into. It actually was by accident. I was actually working on a different topic, and I kind of stumbled across a couple of these clemency decisions. And once I saw these, what I considered anonymous people who received clemency decisions, they had a connection or a tie to the Clintons, it started the process. And I went back and scrubbed all of Bill Clinton's clemency decisions from the day he took office till the time he left, and found how bad they were. As a matter of fact, in Bill Clinton's last 18 months, there were 70 people who either received clemency or had lobbied on behalf of other people to get clemency who had direct ties to Hillary Clinton. Hillary, in her case, was stockpiling financial and political IOUs she used when she ran for the Senate, as well as the presidency. I mentioned that Bill Clinton started in August of 1999. This is exactly what happened. Hillary announced that towards the end of July of 1999, she wanted to run for the seat of the retiring Senator Daniel Patrick Moynihan. It was an open seat. The presumptive GOP nominee at the time was Rudy Giuliani, a very popular mayor, not only in New York City, but throughout the entire state. And New York City politics is really where most statewide races are won in New York. That's where the big voting bloc is. And New York City politics is balkanized. People are divided along racial and ethnic and religious and country of origin backgrounds. And politicians have pandered to these various groups over the years. But only the Clintons were savvy enough to realize they could give away pardons in return for votes. One of the first acts that Bill Clinton did was he approached the 16 FALN Puerto Rican terrorists, most of whom were serving sentences of 50 to 70 years for little things like murder and bombings and robberies and so forth. And he offered them, he said, "Look, folks, I know you didn't even request clemency. You don't have anything before me. I'm willing to give you clemency if you promise not to commit further violence when you get released." And people have to wonder, why on earth would he would do that? Well, because of these balkanized politics, the Puerto Rican community were reliable Democratic Party voters. But the last time that Rudy Giuliani ran for mayor, he got 43% of the Puerto Rican vote, which is astonishing for a Republican in New York City. So the Clintons looked at this and realized if Hillary's going to win statewide, she has to win New York City by a large amount because the rest of the state tends to vote Republican, and she needs to get those Puerto Rican votes back. So Bill Clinton approached them and said, "You didn't request clemency, but I'll give it to you anyway." That started the whole process. They realized they could trade pardons for money, gifts, and influence. And it went that way the last 18 months that he was president.
Oh, my goodness. Let me ask you this question, and I'm sure you've been asked this before, but during your research for this book, did you develop an aura of having to look over your shoulder because you wanted to make sure who was standing behind you?
Yeah, I have to tell you, and I kind of chuckle when you say that because I've heard this so many times. When I announced that this book was coming out, a good friend of mine, and your listeners should know, I'm a retired from the Navy. I served 35 years in the military. I retired as a Navy captain. And a good friend of mine that I served with in Europe, who was a retired SEAL, who, after he left, went on to work in personal protection for some very high-profile individuals in Europe, and I'll just leave it at that. He texted me the morning the announcement went out. He said, dude, watch your six. I'm telling you, I lived in that business for a long time. Have your head on a swivel. Watch your six because you don't know what's going to happen. And I kind of chuckled at it, but I did see a couple times somebody posted on social media. They said, hey, everyone should buy this book. It'll become really valuable once he commits suicide. So certainly there's a belief by people that you sort of have to protect yourself because of all the rumors and the conspiracy theories regarding the Clintons. I'm not sure that's changed my life dramatically. It's out there. It is what it is. But certainly I know that the New York Times and Washington Post will never review it. Oprah's not going to review the book. It's not going to get the measure of support. The listeners should appreciate there are 850 endnotes to this book. 850. Every court document, every interview, every newspaper article, every legal document that's out there is footnoted in this book. People can find exactly where I got the information, so they don't have to believe me. I give them a roadmap of where to find the facts.
You know, let me ask you this question, Mark, and you're very interesting to talk to, but in your research, which I assume was extremely extensive and very time-wearying, it must have opened up other avenues for other stories like a spider web of other people that might have been involved in other activities. Is that not true?
Oh, absolutely. You know, when I mentioned that there was essentially the trading of pardons and commutations for money, gifts, and influence, it also wasn't just a matter of some guy got a pardon because he wrote a check. These oftentimes were really bad dudes. I'll use the example of Carlos Vignali, is a cocaine trafficking kingpin in L.A. who was caught shipping 800 pounds of cocaine to Minnesota. He wanted to get a commutation, so he hired Hugh Rodham, which was Hillary Clinton's oldest of her two brothers, paid him over $200,000, and he hustled clemency for Carlos Vignali, who got sprung from jail. Now, another case didn't have a direct Clinton connection in terms of Bill or Hillary or the brothers, but there was another attorney out of New York City who had a business on the side. He was the international money launderer for the Cali drug cartel. Remember the Cali drug cartel? Not hundreds, but literally thousands of people were killed in the 80s and 90s over these drug wars. They went to battle with the military in all these countries, as well as the police. These were bad people. The international money launderer for the Cali drug cartel wanted to get sprung from prison, so he asked two of his close friends if they would get clemency from Bill Clinton. Those people were John Podesta and Harold Ickes, the chief of staff and the deputy chief of staff for Bill Clinton. They asked Clinton to give him clemency, and Harvey Weinstein got sprung from prison. He was the Cali drug cartel's money launderer. These were bad people that we put back out on the streets. You know, your listeners, I'm sure, know this, that clemency is government's official forgiveness for crimes. If you believe in redemption, if you believe that people have paid their debt to society, then there are times where you say, it makes sense to wipe their record clean. It might be an individual who had a professional license revoked because of a felony conviction. So he serves time in prison. He gets out. He does all of probation. He's a model citizen now. And he wants to have his license restored to return to his profession so he can take care of his family, be a protected member of society. Those are the cases where I think everyone says, that makes sense. Wipe that felony conviction away so the guy can return to society. We get that. But rewarding the money launderer for the Cali drug cartel or a cocaine trafficking kingpin or Susan Rosenberg, who was sentenced to 58 years in prison, She was caught with 740 pounds of explosives and ammunition and weapons, including Uzi machine guns. She was part of the Black Liberation Army organization when she was caught. She was the mastermind of the 1981 Brinks armored car robbery that left 2 police officers dead in the streets. She got pardoned by Bill Clinton.
Wow.
It's just astonishing. And Susan Rosenberg, your listeners may know, more recently, was one of the chief fundraisers for the Black Lives Matter Global Network.
Yes.
Not the small case Black Lives Matter, not the people who say, I believe in these issues, but the actual formal organization that has chapters in 14 cities around the country. She was one of the chief fundraisers for that. This is a really bad woman.
Thus, the spider web continues. Real quick, I've only got 2 minutes left in the segment. With all the information that you've garnered and this book, Pardongate, I'm sure that there are other ideas for future books and stories in the works. Is that not right?
There always are. I think it's, and Zeb, you know this is so as well as I do. The only thing I need in life is more time.
Right.
I don't need more money. I just need more time. There's so many things I want to accomplish as you want to do it, as your listeners want to do. I just need like 3 more people like me to help get involved in this stuff. And it takes a while. It's a lot of time and effort. 850 endnotes. Everything's documented, all the court records, all the court documents. I just want to leave one quick spot with your listeners at how wild and wacky this was at the end. On Bill Clinton's final day, he gave away 140 pardons and 36 commutations. Out of those 176 clemency decisions, 47 of them, the applications never even went to the mandatory Justice Department review and the FBI review. Didn't go through the proper channels. 30 recipients didn't even submit applications. Their names were on Post-it notes. Bill Clinton was furiously writing names on slips of paper, handing them to the pardon attorney after midnight of his last night in office and said, give this guy a pardon, give that guy a pardon. And the pardon attorney was literally on the Internet trying to find out who these people were, what was the correct spelling of their name, what crimes were they convicted of, and where do they live. In some cases, people got pardon certificates with the wrong names or the names misspelled on them that simply said, you're pardoned for your federal crimes, mailed to the wrong address.
Oh, my goodness.
That's wild in the end. And all those recipients had some sort of connection to the Clintons.
This is a must-read book, audience. It's called Pardongate, How Bill and Hillary Clinton and Their Brothers Profited from Pardons by Mark Hyman. Mark, quickly tell everybody where the book can be obtained, please.
Certainly anywhere online, such as Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Simon & Schuster, Books A Million. I would say bookstores, but it seems like most bookstores around the country are closed right now. So the best bet is to get it online. Certainly, I know if you buy it on Amazon today, you can get it in a day or two. But again, Simon & Schuster, Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, a lot of independent bookstores online. So I certainly hope people will get the book, read it. It's chock-a-block full of information. Even those people who think they know the Clintons will be appalled by what they read in this book.
I'm going to get one this afternoon. Pardongate by Mark Hyman. Mark, God bless you for coming on the program. The very best to you, and I'll be in touch to hopefully have you back here in the future.
That sounds great. Thanks, Eb.
Thank you very much. Boy, I mean, this is interesting to me. I'm a student of politics and what goes on. Pardongate, How Bill and Hillary Clinton and Their Brothers Profited from Pardons, written by Mark Hyman. Don't forget that. Oh, my goodness, time for the weather. Quickly, we got to get the weather forecast on here by Scarro's Meats. Don Scarrow and the crew at 331 North Road, Jerome. Number to call, 324-7657, or you can go to their website, scarrowsmeats.com. Check out all the delicious, great meats for you and your family. For any gathering, any occasion, it's all there at Scarrow's Meats in Jerome. Right now, here's Gina with the weather.
Sunshine and upper 80s are going to prevail for the rest of the week. Here's a look at your weather forecast. Today we are expecting sunny skies, a little bit of a breeze out of the west at about 10 miles an hour, gusts as high as 21 miles an hour. Expecting a high of 89. Tonight, partly cloudy with a low of 59. Tomorrow, mostly sunny skies, high of 86 with an overnight low of 54. 85 for Thursday. Looks like 85 for Friday as well, and maybe 90 for Saturday. That's Look at Your Weather at 4:07.
Thank you very much, Gina, and great forecast. Not very much moisture in that forecast. Scarrows Meats brings you the weather this hour. They're located again at 331 North Road, Jerome. Number to call, 324-7657, and it's really, really true. Don Scarrow and his excellent crew, they are changing the way we eat, one delicious bite at a time. Oh, boy. Hey, listen, the Cassia County Fair is going to start this Saturday, actually. And I want to remind everybody about the great concert they're going to have on Saturday night. And I am not kidding. It's going to be phenomenal with Neil McCoy. That's going to be this Saturday, August 15th, starting at 7:30 in the evening right there at the fairgrounds. And don't forget on the next night, Sunday the 16th, the Monster Truck Insanity starting at 6 o'clock. And then next Monday and Tuesday, they're going to have the Motor Rodeo. And then we're going to follow the daily events all the way through the PRCA Rodeo. You don't want to miss a minute, not a minute, of your 2020 Cassia County Fair and Rodeo. For more information, get a hold of the fair office and be sure and get your tickets for Saturday night's concert, Neil McCoy, starting at 7:30 at the Cassia County Fairgrounds. And by the way, some of the great businesses that want you to attend the Cassia County Fair and Rodeo include Mountain Transmissions at 1146 East Main in Burley, right across from Stoats Equipment. You better believe it. They are absolutely the best. And they say, come on in. If you're having any trouble with your transmission, don't forget to call Rick at 678-9110. Free towing within 50 miles with any major repair, along with free diagnostic and free estimates. Don't you forget your one-stop transmission repair facility, and that's Mountain Transmissions, 1146 East Main in Burley, and they're always waiting to serve you. Don't forget Golden Valley Warehouse at 468 West, 1000 South of Burley, and they'd like to thank all their customers for the great support over the many, many years of this business being owned by the Adams family. Friendly staff, and believe me, the very, very best of quality seed, always at Golden Valley Warehouse in Burley. South of Burley, 468 West, 1000 South. And last but not least, Perkins Bakery and Restaurant, 800 North Overland in Burley. Number to call, 678-1304. And they're located right there at the Burley Inn. And believe me, kind of a headquarters for everybody to attend after the rodeo and after the fair activities. Great for breakfast, lunch, and dinner right there at Perkins Bakery and Restaurant in Burley. Holy moly, we got a big day tomorrow. Dave Bego, and then we've got Senator Kelly Anthon coming on, along with Dr. Gross and some other great people. You be sure and stay tuned tomorrow morning at 8:06 Zeb at the Ranch. I want to give a great big shout out and thank you as I'm hurrying along with the time constraints to get a good word in here from our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Do not forget they've got all your tires, the best of tires, all the different tread designs, and believe me, for all vehicles. And I want to amplify a little bit more about the brake service. They've got highly trained brake technicians that are absolutely knowledgeable about brakes and your safety. So you stop in and check that out today, along with the front end alignment, shocks and struts, and all the batteries at all 7 locations of your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. James and Buell, Dan on Pole Line in Twin Falls, along with Lane and Rupert, Mike and Jerome, Dave on Blue Lakes in Twin Falls, the Twist family in Paul, and Trent on Overland in Burley. The best. Your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Whew, we made it. We're all done. We want to urge everybody to remember that we'll be back here again tomorrow morning at 8:06 right here on KBAR 1230 and then streaming live on the internet, zebbell.com. And we always end the program by saying the way things were are the way things ought to be. But the 4 words that mean the most, in God we trust. Have a wonderful day. Stay cool. We'll see you tomorrow morning at 8:06.